Hello and welcome everyone to the second episode of our 12-month 2025 Labor and Employment Series. I want to welcome back all of those who tuned in to our first episode featuring the esteemed Bianca Saad of the California Chamber of Commerce and California Chamber Policy Council, where she discussed topics such as changes in recruiting and hiring, minimum wage increases, and so much more. I also want to welcome those who are joining us for the first time. I do believe that you are in for a fruitful treat today as we hear from our experts over at CalSavers. And as an employer, you may be asking, what is CalSavers and how does it support my business? And as an employee, you may be asking, what is CalSavers and how will it support my financial future? All great questions, and we hope that you stick around and learn more. My name is Isaiah Green, and I serve as the Assistant Deputy Director and Central California Regional Advisor for the California Office of Small Business Advocate, where we support the state's 4.1 million small businesses, including nonprofits and startups, by helping you find and navigate resources, programs, and regulations so you can start, manage, scale, and ultimately thrive in your business. And so I'm especially excited today, and I know we're all excited today about the second episode in this 12-month series because we have the opportunity and a pleasure to connect and team up with the California Chamber of Commerce and the California Chamber of Commerce's Small Business Policy Council to bring all small business owners no cost, easy to access webinar series on important labor and employment topics for 2025. Our governor always says, if you want to go faster, go alone. If you want to go further, go together. And so I appreciate the partnership that we have here. Grateful for CalSavers to be along for the ride. And I also want to give a shout out to our marketing teams who are doing excellent work behind the scenes to make sure that this is successful. So thank you all. And with that being said, Bianca, I want to pass it over to you.
Thank you, Isaiah, and hello to everyone joining us. We are so excited to have you here with us today. So as CalChamber's General Counsel for Labor and Employment, I am also very thrilled for this partnership that we have with CalOSBA and CalChamber Small Business Policy Council to bring these resources to small business owners, particularly through the webinar series on these important labor and employment topics. So like Isaiah mentioned, if you haven't checked out that first episode covering the key employment law updates for 2025, you'll definitely want to go back and check that one out. But what brings us here today, we are very excited about, is learning all about the CalSavers program, which businesses need to be concerned with this obligation. Again, you may not have heard of it before today, so we'll learn all about it, who needs to comply, and what you need to do in order to be in compliance. So with that, I'm very excited to turn it over to our special guest and expert, Outreach and Client Services Manager with CalSavers, Carolina Hernandez. Welcome, Carolina.
Thank you very much, Bianca. Thank you very much, Isaiah. And thank you to CalOSBA and to the CalChamber for inviting us and giving us the opportunity and the platform to be able to speak to California business owners and talk a little bit about the program that I've been working for the last 5 years. So especially thank you for those business owners who are tuning in so that you can learn about CalSavers and how we are working to address the retirement savings access gap that's affecting millions of Californians, and also why this is a compliance issue you and your peers should be aware of. Let's go ahead and jump into today's topics. In today's presentation, I will discuss 5 main topics: why the CalSavers program was created, how the program works, who's eligible under this mandate, what are the penalties for non-compliance, and how to sign up, and what your ongoing responsibilities are to remain in compliance. So let's go ahead and get into the meat of today's presentation. I'd like to start off by discussing the situation that the California legislature aimed to address when they passed the bill creating the CalSavers program and its new requirements. Before the program launched back in 2019, we conducted several studies that revealed some key findings. Starting off with, nearly half of Californians were projected to retire into economic hardship. One major factor contributing to this was that over 7 million Californians, people who go to work every day, just like you and me, lacked access to a workplace retirement option. Now, this is particularly concerning because research shows that individuals with access to a payroll deduction retirement plan are 15 times more likely to save for retirement and secure their financial future. This likelihood increases significantly to 20 times more likely when the program includes automatic enrollment, a key feature of CalSavers. So knowing that the easiest way to get people saving and on a path towards retirement security is through the workplace, the California legislature took action in 2016 by passing a new law that did two important things. First, it created a retirement mandate for businesses, and second, it authorized the creation of the CalSavers program. Now, the mandate requires that California businesses with an average of at least one employee must register for CalSavers and facilitate their employees' access to the program. Now, prior to this change, that mandate applied to businesses who averaged 5 or more employees. But Assembly Bill 1126 went into effect in 2023, and it expanded eligibility to businesses with just one eligible employee. Now, what does this mean to you? Those employers who already have a retirement plan in place, you are exempt. Employers who begin offering a qualified plan by their deadline date will also be exempt, but make sure that you are reporting that exemption to CalSavers. That information is not made available to us immediately. We want to make sure that we're not sending you non-compliance notifications for no reason, so do make sure that you let us know. There is a list of all of those qualified plans available over on our website if you want to take a look and see if your business is already offering one of those. And those employers who are looking for a simple and free way to comply with the mandate, you are welcome to register for CalSavers. Now, to determine eligibility, we receive your business information from the Employment Development Department, or EDD. EDD provides us with the number of employees that you report to them for a full calendar year. We average those numbers from January to December to assess eligibility. And if you are identified as eligible, you will remain eligible for the entire year. Eligibility is not based on how many employees you have today, but an average number from the previous year. Now, what constitutes an eligible employee, and how is it that we reach your average? So for this, we are counting those reported to EDD as employees of the business. They must be employed in the state of California. Now, EDD is a state agency, so if you are reporting those employees of your business and they are California employees, they must be at least 18 years or older, have either a social security number or an ITIN to be eligible to participate. Now, contractors are not counted towards your eligibility. If you do have employees who are living outside of California, though, that you are reporting to EDD, we do count those towards your average. Now, this also includes your employees who are full-time, part-time, seasonal workers, and visa holders as well are eligible to participate. Also, owners and officers who are reported as employees to EDD are also included and counted towards the eligibility for participation. Now, all employees who do meet these criteria must be added to CalSavers and given the opportunity to participate. We also like to emphasize that we are not intended to replace or compete with any existing employer-sponsored plans. The goal here is to level the playing field and increase participation in the overall retirement savings market, not just in CalSavers. Next, let's talk about registration deadlines. This is the timeline that we follow when identifying employers and issuing compliance deadlines. Every spring, we receive updated data from EDD, which tells us how many employees you reported for the previous calendar year. We use this information to calculate your average number of employees. If we determine that you had at least one employee in the previous calendar year, you will be subject to the mandate. Your registration window opens when we notify you, and you have until the end of the year to comply. Whether that means registering with CalSavers or setting up a qualified retirement plan from the private sector, do make sure that you're reporting that so that we mark you exempt on our end. You will receive notifications from CalSavers via email and paper mail informing you that you need to register by the end of the year. We will send several reminders leading up to your deadline or until you register. Businesses must comply by their registration deadline of December 31st of the year they are contacted, but can start the process as soon as they are notified. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the legislature did expand that employer mandate to include businesses with as few as 1 employee. Now, businesses with an average of 1 to 4 employees who do not have a qualified retirement plan are required to join CalSavers. These businesses have a compliance deadline of December 31st, 2025. Now, 2025 is a significant compliance year for us, as we have roughly 500,000 employers in that 1 to 4 employee cohort. We do strongly encourage businesses to get started early to ensure they have access to all of our resources and have a positive experience. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to be sharing the various resources that we have available to assist you along the way. Businesses who miss their deadline, you will receive enforcement notices and should register as soon as possible to avoid penalties. Non-compliant businesses can face penalties of up to $750 per employee, which will be assessed by the Franchise Tax Board. If your business has been issued a penalty, connect with our client service team. We can help you get back on the compliance road and possibly waive that penalty. Now, lastly, I also mentioned that CalSavers is open for individual registration. So if you are a contractor, self-employed, or work for a business that is not participating in CalSavers, you can also join anytime on your own by visiting calsavers.com. Now that covered the background of the program. Now let's talk about facilitation and what your roles and responsibilities are as the employer. Here are going to be some of the key employer features that we had in mind when we were designing the CalSavers program. When the legislation passed back in 2016, one of the very first things that we did was to engage a group of stakeholders that represented both the employer community as well as the interests of the consumers. We wanted to address the obstacles from the existing plans on the market that made it difficult for businesses to offer retirement savings to their employees, while also building a solid program for our savers. There were 3 key hurdles that employers reported. Those were the administrative burden, the fees, and the fiduciary liability. So CalSavers was designed to address all 3 of those issues. We designed the program to be easy to facilitate for employers with minimal responsibilities. The program communicates directly with participants and provides all account statements and tax documents. There are no program fees for employers. CalSavers is an IRA, and federal regulations prohibit employers from contributing to their employees' accounts, making it a no-cost program for them. And because employers are not sponsoring the program, they have no fiduciary liability. The board that I work for and all of the contractors are the fiduciaries of the program. So what are the roles and responsibilities of an employer? To be compliant, you must register and set up your account by December 31st. This tip will only take about 5 minutes to complete. The following 2 steps are going to be ongoing though. So you will need to submit your employee roster and keep it up to date. This means adding new employees as you hire them and marking those who leave your employment as inactive. You will also be responsible for facilitating contributions from participating employees to CalSavers each time that you run payroll. Failure to complete these steps will result in noncompliance and could also lead to penalties. Now, also, as I mentioned, employers will not have any program fees, bear any fiduciary responsibility, or be allowed to contribute to employees' accounts. The following are going to be a few things that employers should not do, and that includes encourage or discourage employees' choice regarding participation in CalSavers. Participation is optional for employees, but it's up to the employees to decide whether they want to opt out or participate. Provide financial advice, including guidance on investment options, taxes, or influence on an employee's decision to participate. By doing so, employers would be acting as fiduciaries, which could expose them to legal and financial liability for the decisions employees make regarding their accounts. Process distribution or manage account changes for employees. Employees can make withdrawals or update their account through their portal or by contacting our client service team. The employer's role here is really designed to be limited to those things that you see there on the left-hand side of your screen so that you are not burdened with some of the administrative duties that you see on the right-hand side of your screen. Now here's going to be a timeline of the registration and onboarding process. It all begins when you are first contacted by CalSavers. In your notice, we will include your compliance deadline as well as an access code that you will need to get started. While you are welcome to begin the process anytime before your deadline, please do note that once you register, that deadline to complete the following steps will be moved up. So to get started, you will need to gather your access code, as well as your business FEIN, your federal identification number, and your California payroll tax ID. This is going to be your account number with ADD. Once you register, no later than December 31st of your deadline year, you will have 30 days to upload a roster of your eligible employees. Now, you can upload the roster immediately after setting up your account, but you have up to 30 days from when you initiate your registration to complete this step. Once we receive the roster of your employees, we will begin communicating with them. We will send them a welcome packet informing them that their employer has registered and that they have 30 days before being enrolled in CalSavers. We will explain their options, which include doing nothing and being automatically enrolled in our default settings, customizing their account, or opting out of participation. After the 30-day window has closed, payroll deductions will begin. Employers will be able to see who is participating and will start remitting contributions from their employees' payroll over to CalSavers, where we will deposit those into their accounts. Now, that was a brief overview of how to facilitate CalSavers. Should you need any assistance completing any of these steps, we have a team of field representatives who are available to help. You can schedule an appointment with them at no cost, and they will guide you through the process. You can also contact our employer support line for assistance. Now that we've covered the employer's role, let's take a look at some of the key features of CalSavers for our participants. CalSavers is an automatic payroll deduction IRA. Participants fund their account through payroll contributions, which are then deposited into an IRA account. The accounts default to a Roth IRA, meaning that contributions are made on an after-tax basis. However, participants can recharacterize their account to a traditional IRA. Participation is completely voluntary for your employees. The mandate is for businesses, not the individual. Once employees are added to the program, they have 30 days to opt out. However, they are not limited to this 30-day period. They can opt out or join at any time. There is no open enrollment period for this. We offer a straightforward selection of 5 investment options. Recognizing that this might be participants' first venture into investing, we purposely kept the choices limited to avoid overwhelming them with too many options. The accounts are portable and move with participants from job to job. If an employee leaves your company and starts working for another employer, they can continue saving into that same CalSavers account. It's not tied to you as the employer, it is tied to them individually. And finally, the program is low cost for savers. There are no fees for employers. Savers do pay a fee to participate in the program though, which is how CalSavers is funded. Now let's talk about how employees join the program. Once you've registered your company, you will add your roster of eligible employees. All of those employees who are 18 years or older, regardless of the number of hours that they work. Once added, they will be contacted by the program. They will receive an invitation to learn more, register their account, and of course, they will have the option to opt out. Once you have added them, the 30-day decision period begins. After 30 days, employees who have not opted out will be auto-enrolled, and at that point, you as the employer can begin initiating payroll deductions and remitting them to the program. Now, during this 30-day decision window, participants have 3 options. They can do nothing, and by doing nothing, they will be enrolled with the standard choices. They can customize their account by choosing the percentage of income that they'll contribute and selecting the investment fund. and they can also opt out. CalSavers is optional for participants, so they can select to opt out of the program anytime. This option is not limited to this decision window. If they join today and down the road need to pause contributions, they can do so anytime and resume once they are ready. Opting out can be done conveniently online or by phone. And while a paper form is also available, opting out online or by phone will be the fastest process. Now let's take a look at what the account options are in a little bit of detail. Here we're going to compare the standard or the default option with the customized alternative for those individuals who want to tailor their savings experience to better suit their preferences. For those that want a more hands-off approach and do not make any changes, they will be saving in a Roth IRA. Roth meaning contributions are after tax. The initial contribution percentage is going to be set at 5%, and it will gradually increase by 1% each year until the account reaches 8% in contributions to encourage additional savings. For the first 30 days, contributions will be directed to a money market fund. Following this initial period, those funds and any additional contributions will be rolled over into a target retirement fund. These are age-based funds tailored to an individual's current age and specific time horizon leading up to retirement. Now, for those that want to take a little bit more of a hands-on approach, they can switch their account from a Roth IRA to a traditional IRA with post-tax contributions. All contributions enter CalSavers post-tax. So individuals who select this option will receive a tax form to claim their deduction when they file their taxes. They can also change the percentage that they're contributing. Contributions can be between 1 to 100% of pay, as long as they do not exceed the IRS yearly limit. For 2025, the IRS contribution limit for individuals is $7,000 annually, and those who are age 50 or older can contribute up to $8,000 a year. They also have the flexibility to change the percentage that they're contributing at any time and can disable the auto escalation feature, which annually increases their contribution by 1%. And they can also change their investment option from our selection, which ranges from more aggressively invested funds to more conservative funds, just depending on their risk tolerance. Here's going to be a detailed list of all of the funds and the fees that participants pay, which is what funds the CalSavers program. All of this information is available on the CalSavers website. So if you would like to learn more about the investments and their performance history over different time periods, all of that information can be found on calsavers.com. Now I've talked about resources, so here I'd like to share a few, starting with our website. On our website, you will find tools, tips, and templates. We have a very useful list of frequently asked questions. We also have a wonderful call center with dedicated lines for employers, as well as a line dedicated for our savers. Our representatives speak English and Spanish, and we also have access to a translation service line for all other language needs. And we also have a fantastic field team. They work directly with employers. So you can email your local representative and schedule a one-on-one appointment if you do need assistance along the way. They're also available for educational presentations for your employees. So if you'd like to schedule for them, go ahead and email at thatfieldsupport@calsavers.com. Now that's all the information that I have for you today. Let's go ahead and open it up for Q&A, Bianca.
Thank you, Carolina. That was an excellent presentation. A lot of really good information for employers to be aware of around our CalSavers obligations. So the first question is around, we talked about they have essentially businesses that they have one employee or more that age 18 or over, then we need to have them covered as far as employees. So when we're looking at who is included as an employee, does that include our temporary, seasonal, and part-time workers?
Yes, absolutely. So we are taking an average of your employee count over the year to take into consideration that there are some seasonal businesses who are not maybe operating for a majority of the year. But if that average over those 12 months comes to at least one employee, then you would be required to register with CalSavers if you don't already have a private sector plan. Now, for those employees that are seasonal, you would only be sending contributions if they are participating, and you would only be doing so during the time that they're employed by the business. For that time that the business is maybe off season, or maybe there's a batch of employees that are leaving the business for a time period, you can mark them as inactive. If they do come back to your employment, you can just reactivate them and they will keep the same settings that they had selected.
Okay, great. And so you talked about the fact that if you have an employer has a retirement plan already set up, then they would not have this obligation. And correct me anywhere if I missed anything. But so to that end, we do have a question about if we have a 401k plan, does that need to be available at the time of hire? So for example, if a company has a 1-year waiting period before their employees are eligible for the 401k, is that going to qualify as something that would take them out of the CalSavers requirement? Or, can we have a little explanation around what would constitute that qualified plan?
Of course. So if the business is offering a 401k plan, then they are considered as exempt. So they have satisfied this mandate. They can put their own rules around that 401k. They can have a probation period of up to a year. They can only make it available to certain employees. It doesn't have to be made available to all employees for them to be considered exempt. The important thing is that they have an option in place. So the mandate isn't necessarily to register with CalSavers. It's going to be CalSavers or a private sector plan. And 401k is going to be one of those plans that would satisfy that mandate.
Okay, great. And I think that does touch on, and actually another question that we have around that, which is, so if we have that company, they're offering a plan, a 401k plan, let's say to the salary exempt employees, is it acceptable then that the option available for hourly or non-exempt employees would just be through CalSavers instead?
That's a good question. We get that one often, actually. So employers that already satisfied the mandate by having a qualified plan, you're exempt. And if you're exempt, you're actually not able to register with CalSavers. It's going to be an either or. So those employees that don't have access to the 401k and they're looking for a way to save, they can sign up to CalSavers individually. If the employer wants to be involved in the process, maybe they want to facilitate those contributions on their behalf, that's still an option, but the business would not be registered with CalSavers, the individual would, and the employer would just be sending those contributions over.
Okay, that is really, really helpful. Thank you for clarifying all of that. And I think Isaiah has some questions flagged too, so I'll turn it to him.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, you talked about Senate Bill 1126 expanding the mandate for employers with at least one employee. This is a state mandated program, correct? And so if as an employer, what are my consequences if I am not in compliance with this mandate?
Yeah, well, mandate is nothing without some teeth. So there are some non-compliance penalties that are attached to that. So an employer that is non-compliant, we first reach out to you. We tell you, hey, you've failed to either register your business, you've failed to send employee information, you've failed to send contributions over. You have 90 days to get back into compliance. After those 90 days, if the employer is still out of compliance, then the first fee is issued, and that's going to be $250 per employee. We'll send you another notice. Say you have another 90 days to get back into compliance. And if again, the employer is non-compliant by the end of that time, an additional $500 in penalties is issued per employee. Now, we do try to work with the employer. The goal here is not to collect penalties, it is to expand access. If an employer has found themselves to be in the situation that they have already been penalized and those penalties would come from the franchise tax board, we encourage them to get in contact with us. We will work with them. We will try to get them back into compliance. And once they are fully compliant, we might be able to waive that penalty.
Awesome. That's amazing. One, I think it's super helpful that this information is being shared and there's actual support and actually a window. Did you say the 90-day window? Did I catch that right? That's amazing because I think sometimes as small business owners, some of this stuff can fall by the wayside, and so having that grace period is excellent. But then also having that support in order to get back into compliance is even better. So we appreciate this. My next question falls into the same sort of category. I believe you said there's a registration deadline between now and December 31st of 2025, correct? Um, and so what exactly are businesses required to do between now and that deadline?
Yeah, so the registration deadlines for businesses are always at the end of the year.
Okay.
And because we're analyzing their eligibility around the springtime and sending them notifications, we want to make sure that we're giving them ample time so that they can look at what their options are, be it that they want to go to private sector or if they want to register with CalSavers. From the time that they are notified, if they want to go with CalSavers, they can register immediately and complete those following steps, but they do need to get that started by December 31st. And that means just registering your business. So 5 minutes, gather your business information. You're going to collect your federal identification number, your California payroll tax ID, and that access code that CalSaver sends you. It'll take you, roughly about the same time that takes you to create an account, right? You're just going to be inputting your business information on there, and you are set to have another 30 days for that next step of adding employees. So from the time that a business registers to the time that they're actually facilitating these contributions could be upwards of 60 days. So they have plenty of time so that they can learn the process, so that they can set up their payroll. So once that time period has passed and they do have participating employees, they can seamlessly incorporate that into their payroll cycle.
Amazing, 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 amazing. Super helpful information. I think I have one more question, Kalana, if that's okay.
Of course.
This is kind of backtracking a little bit, but kind of piggybacking off Bianca's question. If employers believe that they are exempt because they already offer a qualified plan, are they required to file an exemption? Will they receive any penalties if they do not file an exemption? Even though they offer plans? How does that work?
Yes. So if you've been notified by CalSavers, but you already have a plan, then make sure you're reporting it over to us because obviously we're not aware. We only send notifications to those employers who we identify as meeting that eligibility criteria. So that means that they are not offering a qualified plan. So maybe by the time that you get your notice, you start a plan immediately after. We don't know that right away. So if you are already compliant, it's really quick. Go to calsavers.com, tell us what kind of plan you have, and we will remove you from our system. We'll stop sending you notifications. If you don't and you are compliant, but we don't know that, then after that deadline date, we're going to start sending you those notices of non-compliance and how those non-compliance can lead to penalties.
Awesome. Amazing. Amazing. Bianca, did you have any more questions? I think Carolina nailed it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
no, absolutely. That's a really important one. I'm glad you flagged that because that's such a good point about, you're sending the notices out because you believe that they should be registering. So it's an important reminder for employers that they're getting those notices, even if they have that qualified plan, to get back to you and let you know, hey, we've got this qualified plan in place. So
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Carolina. I think that wraps up and concludes our webinar presentation, and one from the California Office of Small Business Advocate in partnership with the California Chamber of Commerce and the Policy Council. We want to say thank you so much for joining us today and really presenting this helpful and important and really timely information for our employers here in California. And so for all those who are tuning in today, thank you so much for your time. Please, 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 please feel free to ask more questions. There will be a link on our website as it is posted. If you didn't get your questions asked today, please ask more questions. Continue to visit CalSavers website. We will be able to serve you in any way possible moving forward with the information that you need in order to scale and be successful and in compliance. And so with that being said, Bianca, did you have anything to say or?
No, just thank you to Carolina for joining us today, and thank you, Isaiah, and of course to everybody who joined us today. Like Isaiah said, stay tuned on that, on that page. We hope to see you at future episodes where we're going to continue to cover additional critical topics around labor and employment that, of course, our small businesses in California really should be aware of. So just thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Carolina, Bianca, thank you, and until next time.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks.